Anxiety isn't your enemy. It might be the greatest teacher you'll ever have. While everyone's telling you to eliminate anxiety, what if I told you the Stoics discovered something revolutionary thousands of years ago? They didn't run from uncomfortable emotions, they learned from them. That pit in your stomach, the racing thoughts at 3 a.m., the tightness in your chest, these aren't glitches in your system. They're messages, if only you knew how to decode them. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how anxiety, when viewed through the Stoic lens, becomes a powerful guide rather than a prison. People spending thousands on therapy are missing what the ancient philosophers knew. Anxiety holds the key to your transformation. This isn't about coping. It's about converting what feels like your greatest weakness into your most profound strength. Rewriting your inner narrative Stoic self-talk techniques. Your kind support will be appreciated. Let's dive in. The voice in your head has shaped every decision you've ever made. But what if that voice is sabotaging you? What we say to ourselves in moments of challenge determines who we become. Ancient Stoics discovered something modern psychology is only now catching up to. Our inner narrative creates our reality. The difference between thriving and merely surviving comes down to a handful of mental practices that almost nobody teaches. Today, I'm going to show you how to hack your internal dialogue using techniques that transformed emperors and slaves alike. These aren't just positive affirmations or empty motivation. This is the practical wisdom that built civilizations. Master your self-talk, and you literally rewrite your future. The next few minutes could change everything about how you speak to yourself. Part 1. The 3-2-1 Perspective Shift. Your mind plays tricks on you when life gets tough. Right now, you're probably dealing with something that feels overwhelming, something that keeps you up at night or makes your stomach turn. But what if I told you there's a simple mental technique that can instantly create distance between you and your problems? Most people get trapped in their own perspective. They see their situation through their own eyes, with all the emotional baggage attached. This creates tunnel vision. You become so close to the problem that you can't see solutions. Your emotions cloud your judgment. Fear takes over. Anxiety builds. But here's what the ancient Stoics understood that modern psychology is just catching up to. The problem isn't usually the situation itself. The problem is how close you are to it mentally. When you're inside the storm, everything feels chaotic. But from above the clouds, you can see the whole weather pattern. Think about when your friend comes to you with a problem. You can see their situation clearly, can't you? You give them practical advice. You point out things they're missing. You help them see options they couldn't see before. Why? Because you have distance. You're not emotionally invested in their drama. The ancient philosophers knew this secret. They developed a technique that creates instant emotional distance from any problem. It works every single time, and you can use it right now for whatever you're facing. This technique has 3 levels, like climbing to higher ground to get a better view. Each level gives you more clarity. Each step back reveals more solutions. By the end, problems that seemed impossible suddenly have clear paths forward. Here's the first technique out of 10 that will transform how your mind handles adversity forever. It's called the 3-2-1 Perspective Shift, and it works like this. First, acknowledge your current perspective. You're seeing this situation through your own eyes, with all your fears and emotions attached. This is level 1, your ground-level view where everything feels big and threatening. Next, imagine you're watching a friend go through exactly what you're experiencing. What would you tell them? How would you see their situation? Suddenly, solutions become clearer. The emotional charge decreases. This is level 2, the friend perspective, where compassion and clarity emerge. Finally, zoom out to 30,000 feet like you're in an airplane looking down. See yourself as a tiny figure dealing with this challenge. From this height, how significant does this problem really look? What patterns can you see that weren't visible before? This is level 3, the neutral observer perspective where wisdom emerges. This shift happens in seconds, but the results are immediate. Your breathing slows down, your mind clears. Options you couldn't see before suddenly become obvious. The problem hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has completely transformed. Start practicing this today. The next time you feel overwhelmed, mentally zoom out in these 3 stages. Watch how quickly your stress dissolves and your clarity returns. Part 2. Premeditated resilience training. Your brain has a strange relationship with fear. The more you try to avoid thinking about bad things, the more power they have over you. You've probably noticed this. The worry you push away keeps coming back stronger. The anxiety you try to ignore grows in the shadows of your mind. Most people think positive thinking means never considering negative possibilities. They believe resilience comes from staying optimistic and hoping for the best. But this approach leaves you completely unprepared when real challenges hit. It's like going into battle without training. The ancient Stoics had a counterintuitive approach that modern psychology now recognizes as incredibly effective. Instead of avoiding thoughts of potential problems, they deliberately practice thinking about them. Not to become pessimistic, but to build immunity. Think about how vaccines work. You expose yourself to a small controlled dose of something harmful to build resistance. Your immune system learns to handle it. When the real threat comes, you're prepared. Your body knows exactly how to respond. Your mind works the same way. When you practice handling difficulties in your imagination, you build emotional antibodies. You develop response patterns. You create reference points for strength. When real problems arrive, instead of panic, you experience recognition. You've been here before in your mind. This isn't about becoming negative or expecting the worst. It's about becoming anti-fragile. It's about building a mind that doesn't just survive difficulties, but actually grows stronger from them. It's about developing the kind of inner strength that makes you unshakable. Most people wait for problems to teach them resilience, but by then they're already overwhelmed. They're trying to learn to swim while drowning. Smart people practice resilience before they need it. Here's the second technique out of 10 that will revolutionize your mental toughness. It's called premeditated resilience training, and it works like this. Every morning, spend exactly 5 minutes imagining potential challenges you might face. Not to worry about them, but to mentally rehearse handling them well. Start small. Maybe your commute gets delayed. How would you respond with patience and grace? Move to bigger scenarios. What if you lost your job tomorrow? How would you rebuild? What resources would you tap? What opportunities might emerge? Don't just worry about it. Plan for it. Visualize yourself handling it with strength and wisdom. The key is specificity. Don't just think bad things might happen. Picture exact scenarios and rehearse exact responses. See yourself staying calm under pressure. Visualize yourself finding solutions others miss. Practice being the person who thrives when others panic. This practice paradoxically reduces anxiety because your subconscious mind stops treating these scenarios as unknown threats. They become familiar territory. Your nervous system relaxes because it knows you're prepared. After just 1 week of this practice, you'll notice something remarkable. Daily stresses that used to overwhelm you barely register. Your confidence grows because you know you can handle whatever comes. You develop the quiet strength that others admire but can't explain. Start tomorrow morning, 5 minutes. Pick one potential challenge and mentally rehearse mastering it. Watch how this simple practice transforms your relationship with uncertainty forever. Part 3. The Dichotomy of Control Audit. Your mind wastes tremendous energy on things you cannot change. Right now, you're probably worrying about outcomes you can't control, people you can't change, or events you can't prevent. This mental spinning creates exhaustion without progress. It's like trying to push a mountain while ignoring the path around it. Most people never distinguish between what they can control and what they cannot. They treat everything as equally urgent, equally important, equally within their power to influence. This creates a scattered mind that accomplishes little while suffering much. But here's what separates strong minds from weak ones. Strong minds know exactly where to focus their energy. They have crystal clear boundaries between their domain of power and everything else. They never waste energy on the wrong battles. The ancient Stoics built their entire philosophy around this distinction. They called it the fundamental divide between what is up to us and what is not up to us. Everything in life falls into one of these two categories. Nothing exists in between. What's up to you, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, your effort, your character, your choices? What's not up to you? Other people's actions, outcomes, results, the past, the future, natural disasters, the economy, other people's opinions. This sounds simple, but most people get it backwards. They stress about things outside their control while neglecting the few things they can actually influence. They worry about what others think while ignoring their own character development. They focus on results while ignoring the process. When you audit your mental energy and redirect it properly, everything changes. Stress dissolves because you stop fighting unwinnable battles. Effectiveness skyrockets because you focus only on what matters. Peace emerges because you're no longer at war with reality. Here's the third technique out of 10 that will eliminate wasted mental energy forever. It's called the dichotomy of control audit, and it works like this. Take out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On the left side, write fully within my control. On the right side, write not within my control. Now list everything you're currently worried about, stressed about, or thinking about. Be ruthlessly honest about which column each item belongs in. Your boss's mood, not your control. Your preparation for the meeting, your control. Whether you get promoted, not entirely your control. The quality of your work, your control. Here's where most people make mistakes. They put things like my health in the control column, but you don't control whether you get sick. You control your diet, exercise, and lifestyle choices. The outcome isn't guaranteed, but the process is yours to command. Once your audit is complete, develop different self-talk protocols for each column. For things outside your control, practice acceptance and release. This is not mine to control. I release my need to control this outcome. For things within your control, practice commitment and action. This is mine to handle. I will give my best effort here. The transformation is immediate. Your mind stops spinning on impossible problems and focuses on possible solutions. You become the kind of person who stays calm in chaos because you know exactly where your power lies. Complete your audit today. Most people discover they've been wasting 80% of their mental energy on things they cannot control. Redirect that energy to what you can control and watch your life transform. Part 4. Memento Mori Reflection. You're going to die. I know that sounds harsh, but this truth contains the most powerful filter for your thoughts you'll ever discover. Right now, you're probably stressed about things that won't matter at all in your final moments. You're losing sleep over problems that will seem trivial when viewed from the end of your life. Most people avoid thinking about death. They treat it like a morbid obsession or unnecessary negativity. But this avoidance keeps them trapped in trivial concerns. They spend years worried about things that ultimately don't matter while ignoring what actually does. The ancient Stoics had a different approach. They regularly contemplated death not to become depressed, but to become clear. They used mortality as a lens to separate the important from the unimportant. They knew that awareness of death is the greatest teacher of how to live. Think about people who've faced near-death experiences. What do they report? Suddenly their priorities become crystal clear. Petty concerns evaporate. Relationships matter more than possessions. Love becomes more important than status. Present moments become precious instead of taken for granted. This clarity doesn't require a near-death experience. It just requires the wisdom to use death as a teacher instead of avoiding it as a fear. When you remember that your time is limited, everything changes. Trivial worries lose their power. Important priorities become obvious. Your inner critic loves to magnify small problems into big dramas. It turns minor setbacks into major catastrophes. It makes you believe that embarrassing moments, failed projects, or social rejections are earth-shattering events. But they're not. They're just moments in a brief life. This perspective doesn't make you careless or nihilistic. It makes you focused on what truly matters. It helps you separate signal from noise. It gives you the courage to take meaningful risks because you realize that avoiding them is the real risk. Here's the fourth technique out of 10 that will instantly clarify your priorities. It's called Memento Mori Reflection, and it works like this. When your inner critic starts attacking you, when anxiety begins spiraling, when problems feel overwhelming, ask yourself one simple question. Will this matter in my final moments? Be specific. Picture yourself on your deathbed. What will you remember? What will you regret? What will seem important then? Will you remember the time you made a mistake in a meeting? Will you care about that embarrassing moment from last week? Will the argument you had with a stranger matter? Will your social media follower count seem significant? The answer is almost always no. But some things will matter. The love you gave and received, the courage you showed when it was difficult, the times you stood up for what you believed in, the moments you helped others, the experiences you fully embraced instead of worried about. This filter works instantly. When you view your current concerns through the lens of mortality, most of them dissolve. The few that remain are actually worth your attention and energy. You stop wasting time on imaginary problems and start focusing on real priorities. Use this question daily. Make it your automatic response to inner criticism and anxiety. Will this matter in my final moments? Watch how quickly this simple filter transforms your mental landscape from cluttered to clear. Part 5. Amor fati reframing. Something terrible has happened to you, or maybe it's happening right now. Your first instinct is probably to ask, why me? Or, why is this happening? These questions send your mind down a dark spiral of victimhood and helplessness. They make you smaller, weaker, more fragmented. But what if those are the wrong questions entirely? What if there's a different question that could transform your experience of adversity from devastating to empowering? What if the worst thing that ever happened to you could become the best thing? But only if you know how to think about it correctly. Most people resist their difficulties. They fight against what's happening. They waste enormous energy wishing things were different. This resistance doesn't change what happened, but it does multiply the suffering. It's like being shot with an arrow and then shooting yourself with a second arrow of resistance and resentment. The ancient Stoics discovered something remarkable about human psychology. They found that our relationship to events matters more than the events themselves. Two people can experience the same tragedy and come out completely different. One becomes bitter and broken, the other becomes stronger and wiser. The difference isn't what happened to them. The difference is how they interpreted what happened. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending bad things are good. This is about developing a more sophisticated relationship with reality. It's about finding the hidden curriculum in every experience, especially the painful ones. Every setback contains information. Every failure teaches lessons that success cannot. Every loss forces growth that comfort never would. Every obstacle develops capabilities you didn't know you needed. But most people are so busy resisting their challenges that they miss the gifts hidden inside them. The Latin phrase amor fati means love of fate or love what happens. It's not about becoming passive or accepting abuse. It's about developing the ability to find value in every experience, especially the ones you didn't choose. Here's the 5th technique out of 10 that will transform setbacks into comebacks. It's called amor fati reframing, and it works like this. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Train yourself to immediately ask, how is this happening for me? This simple shift in preposition changes everything. It moves you from victim to student, from helpless to curious, from scattered to focused. When you lose a job, instead of why did this happen to me, ask, how is losing this job serving my highest good? What is this experience trying to teach me? What opportunities might emerge that wouldn't have been possible before? When a relationship ends, instead of why am I being punished, ask, how is this ending creating space for something better? What did I need to learn about myself? How will this experience help me become a better partner in the future? The key is genuine curiosity, not forced positivity. You're not pretending the pain doesn't exist. You're looking for the hidden value that pain always contains. You're mining for gold in the darkness of difficulty. Practice specific linguistic patterns. This is happening for me, not to me. This setback is setting me up for something better. This obstacle is developing exactly the strength I need. This loss is making space for something I haven't imagined yet. These aren't just pretty words, they're neural pathways. The more you practice this reframing, the more automatic it becomes. Eventually, you develop the rare ability to transform any adversity into advantage through the power of perspective. Start today with whatever challenge you're facing. Ask, how is this happening for me? and genuinely listen for the answer. You'll be amazed at what emerges when you approach your difficulties as a student instead of a victim. Part 6. The Sage Counsel Method. You face difficult decisions every day, but you're probably making them with only one perspective, your own. Your mind gets trapped in limited thinking patterns. Your emotions cloud your judgment. Your fears whisper worst-case scenarios while your desires paint unrealistic best-case dreams. You need better advisors. What if you could assemble the wisest minds in history to counsel you through any challenge? What if Marcus Aurelius could guide your leadership decisions? What if Maya Angelou could advise you on relationships? What if Einstein could help you think through complex problems? Most people make decisions in isolation. They rely only on their own limited experience and current emotional state. They don't tap into the vast wisdom of human history. They don't leverage the insights of people who've faced similar challenges and emerged victorious. But your mind has an incredible capacity for imagination and role-playing. You can actually channel the wisdom of people you admire. You can ask yourself what they would do in your situation. You can imagine their advice so vividly that it becomes practically useful. This isn't make-believe or fantasy. This is a sophisticated form of perspective-taking that expands your decision-making capacity. When you consider how your heroes would handle your situation, you access wisdom beyond your current limitations. You think bigger, clearer, more strategically. The people you admire became admirable by making good decisions under pressure. They developed judgment through experience. They learned to see patterns others miss. When you channel their perspective, you're borrowing their hard-won wisdom for your current challenges. This technique works because it forces you outside your normal thinking patterns. It interrupts your habitual responses. It gives you access to different frameworks for understanding problems. Instead of reacting from your current emotional state, you can respond from a place of deeper wisdom. Here's the 6th technique out of 10 that will revolutionize your decision-making forever. It's called the Sage Counsel Method, and it works like this. First, identify 3 to 5 people you deeply admire. They can be historical figures, authors, leaders, philosophers, or anyone whose wisdom you respect. Choose people who've faced significant challenges and emerged stronger and wiser. When you face a difficult decision, mentally convene your council. Imagine these wise advisors sitting around a table with you. Picture them clearly. What would each one say about your situation? How would they frame the problem? What questions would they ask that you haven't considered? Be specific about their unique perspectives. What would Marcus Aurelius say about handling criticism? How would Eleanor Roosevelt approach a leadership challenge? What would Buddha suggest about dealing with anger? How would Benjamin Franklin think through a complex negotiation? Don't just guess at their advice, study their actual words and actions, read their books, learn their philosophies, understand their decision-making frameworks. The more deeply you know their thinking, the more valuable their imagined counsel becomes. Practice this regularly, not just during crises. Use your sage counsel for small decisions too. Over time, you'll internalize their wisdom. Their perspectives will become part of your own thinking. You'll develop judgment that transcends your personal limitations. The goal isn't to become dependent on imaginary advisors. The goal is to expand your own wisdom by learning from the greatest minds in human history. Eventually, their insights become integrated into your own decision-making process. Start building your counsel today. Choose your first advisor and study their approach to challenges. Next time you face a difficult decision, ask what they would do. You'll be amazed at how much clarity emerges when you think beyond your own perspective. Part 7. Obstacle as the way journaling. Every obstacle you face is actually a disguised teacher, but most people never learn what it's trying to teach them. They see problems as interruptions to their progress instead of essential parts of their development. They fight against difficulties instead of learning from them. This resistance turns temporary setbacks into permanent limitations. What if every challenge in your life was specifically designed to develop exactly the capabilities you need most? What if your greatest obstacles were actually your greatest opportunities in disguise? What if the very thing that seems to be blocking your path is actually the path itself? The ancient Stoics had a revolutionary insight about adversity. They didn't see obstacles as things to overcome and forget. They saw them as training equipment for the soul. Just like physical resistance builds muscle, life resistance builds character, but only if you approach it correctly. Most people experience problems and immediately want them gone. They pray for easier circumstances. They wish for fewer challenges. They dream of a life without obstacles. But this is like wishing for a life without exercise while hoping to become physically strong. It's contradictory. Every successful person has a collection of obstacles that shaped them into who they became. The entrepreneur's greatest failures taught them business lessons no school could provide. The artist's rejections forced them to develop their authentic voice. The leader's early defeats built the resilience they needed for later victories. But here's what most people miss. These lessons aren't automatic. You don't become stronger just by experiencing difficulties. You become stronger by extracting the wisdom from difficulties. You have to consciously mine each challenge for its hidden curriculum. This requires a shift in how you relate to problems. Instead of seeing them as interruptions to your development, you start seeing them as the actual mechanism of your development. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this obstacle? You start asking, what is this obstacle here to teach me? Here's the 7th technique out of 10 that will transform problems into teachers. It's called Obstacle as the Way journaling, and it works like this. Get a dedicated journal for this practice. Every time you encounter a significant obstacle, write it down clearly and specifically. Don't just write work problems or relationship issues. Be precise. My presentation was criticized in front of the entire team, or my partner and I had a major disagreement about money. Immediately below each obstacle, write this question: what specific capability is this designed to strengthen in me? Then genuinely explore the answer. If your presentation was criticized, maybe it's developing your resilience to feedback, your ability to improve under pressure, or your skill at separating personal worth from professional performance. Be specific about the capabilities being developed. Don't just write patience or strength. Write the ability to remain calm when my competence is questioned publicly, or the skill of receiving criticism without becoming defensive. Look for the precise match between the obstacle and the capability it develops. Public speaking anxiety develops courage under scrutiny. Financial stress develops resourcefulness and planning skills. Relationship conflicts develop communication and empathy abilities. Here's the key insight: every obstacle develops exactly the capability you need for your next level of growth. The universe isn't punishing you with random difficulties, it's providing customized training for your specific developmental needs. Review your journal regularly. You'll start to see patterns. You'll notice how previous obstacles prepared you for current challenges. You'll begin to trust that your current difficulties are preparing you for future opportunities you can't yet imagine. This practice completely transforms your relationship with adversity. Instead of victims of circumstances, you become students of experience. Instead of being weakened by challenges, you become strengthened by them. Instead of avoiding difficulties, you start extracting value from them. Start your obstacle journal today. Write down one current challenge and identify what capability it's developing in you. Watch how this simple shift in perspective transforms problems into possibilities. Part 8. The voluntary discomfort practice. Your comfort zone is actually a prison that's slowly making you weaker. Every day you avoid discomfort, you lose a little bit of your capacity to handle difficulty. Your tolerance for challenge shrinks. Your confidence in your ability to cope diminishes. When real hardship arrives, you're unprepared and overwhelmed. Most people organize their entire lives around avoiding discomfort. They stay in situations that feel safe but don't serve them. They avoid conversations that might be awkward. They choose convenience over growth. They prioritize feeling good in the moment over becoming strong in the long term. But here's what they don't realize. Comfort isn't actually comfortable when you're too weak to handle life's inevitable challenges. The person who avoids all difficulty becomes fragile. When problems arise, and they always do, they have no reference points for strength. They panic because they've never practiced being uncomfortable. The ancient Stoics understood that strength comes from voluntary challenge, not involuntary ease. They regularly chose difficult experiences when they could have chosen easy ones. They practiced poverty when they were wealthy. They slept on hard surfaces when soft beds were available. They exposed themselves to harsh weather when shelter was possible. This wasn't masochism or self-punishment. This was training. They were building reference points for resilience. They were proving to themselves that they could handle difficult circumstances. They were expanding their comfort zones through controlled exposure to discomfort. Think about how this works in physical fitness. If you only lift light weights, you stay weak. To get stronger, you must progressively increase the resistance. Your muscles adapt to whatever demands you place on them. Your mental and emotional muscles work the same way. When you voluntarily choose discomfort, you build confidence in your ability to handle involuntary discomfort. You create evidence that you're stronger than you thought. You develop the inner knowing that you can cope with whatever life throws at you. Here's the 8th technique out of 10 that will build unshakable inner strength. It's called the voluntary discomfort practice, and it works like this. Start small with daily micro-challenges that feel slightly uncomfortable but completely manageable. Take cold showers instead of warm ones. Walk instead of driving when possible. Eat simple meals instead of elaborate ones. Sleep on the floor occasionally instead of your bed. Graduate to social challenges that stretch your comfort zone. Have conversations with strangers. Express unpopular opinions respectfully. Ask for things you want but feel awkward requesting. Practice being comfortable with other people's discomfort or disapproval. Try periodic voluntary constraints. Fast for a day. Give up social media for a week. Spend a weekend without entertainment. Sleep outside under the stars. Experience what you can live without and still be okay. The key is choosing these challenges, not having them imposed on you. When you choose discomfort, you maintain a sense of control and purpose. You're training, not suffering. You're growing, not being punished. Pay attention to your internal dialogue during these experiences. Notice how your mind creates stories about why you can't handle discomfort. Challenge these stories with evidence. I thought I couldn't survive without my phone for a day, but here I am, not only surviving, but thriving. Each voluntary challenge becomes a reference point for involuntary ones. When life gets difficult, you'll remember all the times you chose difficulty and handled it well. Instead of, I can't handle this, you'll think, I've been uncomfortable before and I was fine. Start today with one small voluntary discomfort. Choose something that feels challenging but not overwhelming. Build the habit of choosing the harder path when both options lead to the same destination. Watch how this simple practice transforms your relationship with difficulty forever. Part 9. Present moment anchoring. Your mind is probably racing right now with thoughts about the future, regrets about the past, and worries about things that may never happen. This mental time travel steals your power and scatters your focus. While your mind is elsewhere, life is happening here. While you're lost in abstract concerns, concrete opportunities are passing by. Most anxiety comes from trying to solve future problems that don't exist yet with information you don't have. Most depression comes from reliving past events you cannot change. Both states pull you away from the only place where you actually have power, this present moment. The present moment isn't just where life happens, it's where solutions emerge, it's where clarity appears, it's where right action becomes obvious. But you can only access this power when you're actually here, not lost in mental time travel. Think about your most successful moments. You were probably completely present, fully engaged, totally focused on what was happening right now. Athletes call this being in the zone. Artists call it flow state. Whatever you call it, it's the experience of being fully here, fully now, fully alive. Your mind resists the present moment because it believes its job is to solve every problem and prevent every possible difficulty. It thinks it's protecting you by constantly planning, worrying, and analyzing. But this hypervigilance often creates more problems than it solves. When your mind spins with runaway thoughts, you need a way to interrupt the pattern and return to reality. You need an anchor that pulls you back to what's actually happening instead of what your imagination is creating. You need a question that cuts through mental noise and connects you to concrete action. This isn't about becoming passive or ignoring real problems. This is about distinguishing between productive problem solving and unproductive worry. This is about learning when to think and when to act, when to plan and when to trust, when to prepare and when to be present. Here's the 9th technique out of 10 that will liberate you from mental prison. It's called present moment anchoring, and it works like this. When you notice your mind spinning with worry, anxiety, or endless analysis, interrupt the pattern with one simple question. What is needed of me right now? Not later, not tomorrow, not if everything goes wrong. Right now, in this actual moment, what is needed? This question does several things simultaneously. It pulls your attention from abstract concerns to concrete reality. It shifts you from passive worrying to active engagement. It connects you to your agency and power instead of your helplessness and fear. Sometimes the answer is simple action. Right now, I need to make this phone call. Right now, I need to finish this task. Right now, I need to have this conversation. When you focus on what's needed now, the overwhelming future becomes a manageable present. Sometimes the answer is rest or restoration. Right now, I need to breathe deeply. Right now, I need to take a walk. Right now, I need to drink some water. Anxiety often signals that you need to care for your basic needs, not solve complex problems. Sometimes the answer is acceptance or patience. Right now, I need to wait for more information. Right now, I need to trust the process. Right now, I need to accept that I cannot control this outcome. The power of this question is that it always has an answer. There is always something needed of you right now, even if it's simply to breathe and be present. This gives your spinning mind something concrete to focus on instead of abstract worries. Practice this question throughout your day, not just during crises. What is needed of me right now? Make it your default response to mental scatteredness. Watch how it transforms you from a victim of runaway thoughts into a person of focused action. Use this question today. The next time your mind starts spinning, ask, what is needed of me right now? And then do that one thing. Notice how present moment action dissolves abstract worry every single time. Part 10. Legacy-focused decision-making. You make hundreds of decisions every day, but most of them are driven by immediate impulses, social pressures, or emotional reactions. You choose what feels good in the moment instead of what serves your highest potential. You react to circumstances instead of responding from your deepest values. This creates a life that happens to you instead of a life you consciously create. But what if every decision you made was filtered through one powerful question? What if you had a way to instantly know whether a choice would move you toward or away from the person you want to become? What if you could align every daily decision with your ultimate aspirations? Most people live divided lives. They have noble intentions but make mediocre choices. They want to be excellent but settle for adequate. They dream big but act small. This gap between aspiration and action creates internal conflict, regret, and a sense that life is happening to them instead of through them. The problem isn't lack of good intentions. The problem is lack of decision-making systems that consistently align daily choices with ultimate values. Without this alignment, you drift through life making decisions based on whatever feels easiest, safest, or most immediately rewarding. But your daily decisions are building your character one choice at a time. Every decision either moves you toward the person you want to become or away from that person. There is no neutral territory. Every choice is a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. The most successful and fulfilled people have learned to think about decisions differently. They don't just ask, what do I want to do? They ask, what would the best version of myself do? They make choices from their future identity, not their current impulses. This creates a fascinating psychological phenomenon. When you consistently make decisions from your ideal self, you actually become that person. Your choices shape your character, and your character determines your destiny. You literally decide your way into becoming who you want to be. Here's the 10th and final technique that will align your daily decisions with your highest aspirations. It's called legacy-focused decision-making, and it works like this. Before making any significant decision, ask yourself, what would the ideal version of myself do here? Not the current version with all its limitations, fears and bad habits. The ideal version, the person you are becoming, the character you are building, the legacy you are creating. Be specific about this ideal version. What qualities does this person have? How do they handle pressure? What do they value most? How do they treat other people? What standards do they hold themselves to? The clearer your picture, the better your guidance. When facing a difficult conversation, ask, would my ideal self avoid this or lean into it with courage and compassion? When choosing how to spend your evening, ask, would my ideal self scroll social media or invest in learning something valuable? When deciding whether to take a risk, ask, would my ideal self play it safe or step into growth? When choosing how to respond to criticism, ask, would my ideal self become defensive or use this feedback to improve? This isn't about perfection or impossible standards. This is about direction and intention. You're not trying to become perfect overnight. You're trying to make each decision from your highest potential rather than your lowest impulses. Notice what happens when you make decisions this way. You feel more aligned, more purposeful, more confident. Even when the choices are difficult, they feel right because they're moving you toward who you want to become, rather than keeping you stuck where you are. The cumulative effect is extraordinary. When your daily decisions align with your ultimate aspirations, your life becomes an expression of your deepest values. You stop living by accident and start living by design. You become the author of your own character. Start using this question today. What would the ideal version of myself do here? Let it guide one decision, then another, then another. Watch how this simple filter transforms not just your choices, but your entire life trajectory. Conclusion. You now have 10 powerful techniques that can transform how your mind handles any challenge life presents. These aren't just concepts to understand, they're tools to use. The 3-2-1 perspective shift will create instant emotional distance from overwhelming problems. Premeditated resilience training will build your immunity to setbacks before they happen. The dichotomy of control audit will eliminate wasted mental energy forever. Memento mori reflection will filter trivial concerns from what truly matters. Amor fati reframing will transform setbacks into comebacks. The Sage Counsel method will give you access to wisdom beyond your current limitations. Obstacle as the way journaling will turn every problem into a teacher. The voluntary discomfort practice will build unshakable inner strength. Present moment anchoring will liberate you from mental time travel. And legacy-focused decision-making will align every choice with your highest aspirations. These techniques come from over 2,000 years of tested wisdom, but they only work if